Hi, I'm Jeff for J&G Construction, and welcome to my next YouTube video. Today we're going to be building this mitered cabinet door from material that we milled in our last video called milling and planing. And we're also going to be building this flat panel standard door, so please stay tuned. If you like what you see, I've set the shaper bit up so it's about 1/8 of an inch above the table, so it leaves me about 1/8 of an inch on the back side of the panel door and about 3/8 on the front with a 1/4 inch groove. Now I'm using feather bores to keep a nice consistent straight groove in the door rail material, and I'm also going to be using push sticks when I get close to the blade. So I'm going to go ahead and run these 3 pieces, and then we'll move on to the next step. I use these feather boards for 2 reasons. One being safety. It keeps the material from kicking back and pulling my hands into the blade, and as well as it keeps the material up tight against the fence and as from the shaper, you have one edge that is thicker and one edge that is thinner. The thicker edge should be the face of your board, or the side that's going to show from the outside of the cabinets. And you see this piece looks pretty nice from on the face. This is the thicker edge, so the thicker edge will go up against the fence, and we'll get the router mark. So that would be our finished inside profile on our mitered door. We're getting ready to cut the 2 coped pieces, the 2 pieces of rail for the cabinet door. And on my setup, I have one of these bearings, and the bearing is exactly 3/8 of an inch smaller than the cutting head all the way around. So and then my coping sled will ride up against the bearing, and that will provide me a perfect 3/8 of an inch cope for the rail material. And then I don't need to use the fence or anything for that. So I'll go ahead and set up and do that. Even with the end of the board of my sled, because the edge of my sled is essentially where my fence would be, and the same place as the bearing. So I'll go ahead and run one. Okay, um, these pieces here are called the copes, and that's what I'm cutting right now on the shaper. Um, and I've adjusted the height and everything. So when I put these two pieces together, they come out perfectly flush, and perfectly flush on the end and perfectly flush on the face. Very sandable, makes a nice joint. So I'll go ahead and cut the other piece, and then we'll get started on the mitered door. So this, after running it through on the coping sled and the shaper, is what the top rail looks like, that fits into both styles of the door. As you can see, it has the perfect 1/4 inch groove, the same as the flat panel that we're going to put into it, and that's what the coped end looks like. So now we're going to go ahead and cut the panels for both doors, for the standard flat panel and for the mitered door. Um, since I know that my pieces for my top rail was 9 inches, I can cut my panel uh, an 1/8 of an inch smaller than that, which allows for expansion, contraction, and wood movement. So I can cut it 9 inches wide. And then for length, I know that 13 inches minus 9 is 4 inches. So 20 inches minus 4 inches would be 16 inches tall for my panel, are 15 and 7/8. Okay, so we'll start with assembly. So now we're starting assembly on the standard door. First thing I want to do is I have these space balls that go for the flat panel that will prevent the panel from rattling or moving. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop those in. 2 of them are plenty for just a 20-inch door. And then just one on top and bottom. And these will allow the wood to expand and contract. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue my door up. Oh, one step I forgot. Is that going to be too? And then I want to take a mallet and flush my ends up. Remember, those space balls and cutting the panel a little bit short allows us to move these pieces around. And then putting the clamps on the bearing points help hold that in place. Then next we want to take a framing square and make sure it's square. That door just has to sit up and dry, and then we'll sand it once it's finished. Now this is a door that we just assembled. We are square, that we checked with our square. I wiped the glue off, and so now our next step after the glue dries is to sand the door up, and then that would be all for our standard door. And these little black spacers are what we use around the panel of the door to keep the door centered in the panel and to allow for expansion and contraction and for the door not to rattle. All right, on the mitered door, we still have to cut a 45-degree angle on each one of the pieces. I like to do that on my table saw with a jig that I made and designed. So I've already cut these to length, so I want to just cut the corner of the wood right up to the edge of the wood. So I will go ahead and cut my 4 pieces and show you how that's done. Then I can do that right here on the inside of the panel, which it looks like this side could stand to come up just a little bit. So now we have all 4 pieces of our mitered door cut. We're going to first dry fit them, and then we're going to put biscuits in each one of the corners. So the next step after cutting all the miters on the mitered door is to cut the biscuits into the corners to reinforce the corners. I'm just going to use the back side of the panel as a flat surface, and I'm actually going to set this up. I'm going to grab a pencil. All right, so next we're going to connect these with biscuits. As you can see, the biscuit cutter cuts the slot in the piece. Then the biscuit goes right in the slot. And then with the other piece having the same slot cut into it, that reinforces the corner. So we're going to go ahead and glue these up. And I want to make sure that now when I glue these corners, not only do I want to put glue in the biscuit itself, but I also want to glue the corner itself too. A good liberal amount of glue. And then I want to clean it off the inside corner here so it doesn't squeeze out too much. I'll grab a rag. Yep, now just wipe the excess glue off. And I'll go ahead and join these two. So then I'll go ahead and do the other corners as well. Now this miter door still needs to be sanded. The glue needs to be sanded and removed. But this is generally what our miter door will look like. It's a black walnut miter door with a profile that we put on the router table. And thank you for watching.